Hi, I'm Kat Sapene, and today I'm going to be painting the Mystique premium format figure by Sideshow. Let's get started! I like to start my projects by laying down an undertone of shadows. I've already got that here. You can see it in the dark purpley blue areas. Now I'm going in with my white, going in and painting her costume, but those shadows will come through the white, even though the paint's opaque. And this is really going to help set the light direction for the entire piece and keep it cohesive. And then I'm going to go in with a darker blue-gray maybe in the shadow area, which is why it's useful to have that there. From the clothing, I'm gonna go to her skin tone next, and I'm gonna start off with my two, like the light and the dark base colors, and then I'm gonna go in with highlights and shadows. I'm going in with a light base color of the blue in the lighter areas of the underpainting, and then I've got a shadow base color as well. So this is gonna help block out where everything goes, pretty much just filling in the empty space to begin with. Even though I've already got my highlights and shadows sort of blocked in, I want to push those a little bit, so I'm going to go in with some additional highlight colors and shadow colors. I like to have the piece together when I'm doing this so the highlights and the shadows really fit from piece to piece. Then I'll usually have a couple different colors that I use for the highlights and shadows, like different levels of highlights. It sort of depends on the strength of the light that we want theoretically shining on the figure. So since her skin tone's a little bit blue, I'll do a warmer, maybe slightly yellower cyan kind of color for her highlights, and then a little bit of purple in the shadows. When you're doing your highlights and shadows, it's not just adding white or adding black. You want to use color to give more of a sense of depth. That's going to help focus the eye in certain areas. So I'm going to have more highlight colors around her face and upper body than on her legs. So I've added the highlights and the shadows on the face, and I'll come back to the portrait later. So once I'm done, I'm going to go in with this purple sort of translucent color, and I'm just going to lower my air pressure really low and do a little bit of speckling to add a bit of realism to the skin. Otherwise, the skin, if just left airbrushed, is going to feel very porcelain, and I want her to feel more realistic than that. Now that I'm finished with Mystique's blue skin tone, she has these alternate hands that come in because she's transforming. I've already based out the highlights and the shadows on here, and I'm just going to go in with the usual washes, a little bit of a blue wash and the sponge stipple to sort of pick up some of it, spread it around and give it a little speckly sort of feel on the skin. And then I'm going to go in with a yellow wash. This is actually, it's kind of a yellow ochre color. Same thing, just thinned out with some water. It's a little subtle of a difference to begin with, but then as the layers build up, you really see more of a difference in what's going on and more of a breakup in the skin. And the final step on this is going in with sort of a brownish red color so that I get little speckles to add that last bit of texture to the skin and add realism. It's gonna, just like if you look at your skin, it's not super smooth. It's got a little breakup to it, and that's what this last speckle is doing. So now that I have Mystique's skin and her clothing done, she's got this guard uniform on. So now I'm going to lay down the base colors, and I'm staying away from the top part. That's the blue of her skin that is going to transition into her pants. So I'm not going all the way up to the edge of where that transition is happening. I want that skin tone that I painted in there already to kind of come through to sort of help push that effect of a transition from her blue skin to this guard uniform. Now what I'm going to do is start working on that transition. I want it to have sort of a crackly effect. It's not a smooth transition. So I've just got this kind of crummy brush that I'm using a little bit of a pearl paint. And I'm just sort of like smashing it into the edges lightly just to give it a little bit of a just jittery feel to it. And then I also need to soften that up a little bit, so I'm going to go in and just sort of lightly airbrush those edges. I'm not using just a pearl, it's a little bit of an interference blue, which is where when you turn it, it's going to have a little bit of a blue color to it. That's going to help soften that kind of crackly edge that I've made on the transition. Now I get to paint all the accessories, and I have her gun here. I've based the metallic out, and I'm going to add a little bit of a wash for some weathering. And then the inside of her gun, it's got this like blue glow inside. So I've based it out with a light blue, and then I'm gonna go in with a darker translucent blue, which, like slightly transparent, and blend out the edges. So it has more of a feeling of being powered up, basically. And then she's got these little golden skulls on her belt that I've based out, and now I'm just gonna give them a little bit of wear and age. So I'm airbrushing sort of a transparent raw umber. After that, I'm gonna go in with a little bit of a highlight, a gold and a pearl mix. That'll really make it pop in the light areas. And now I need to paint her boots. Even though they're black, I'm gonna start with a lighter color in the highlight areas before I go in with a black to put in all the shadows and stuff. And that's just gonna keep it from looking too flat. Now that I have that in, I'm gonna go in with a dry brush to add a little bit of weathering to the wrinkles and just some worn spots. So as you're putting in these little dry brushes for weathering, you wanna really think about where the most wear and tear on a pair of boots is going to be. A lot of times you'll see it on the toes or the inner part of the heel because, your two heels kind of hit each other sometimes. So you want to add those little details in those realistic areas. But I'm just going to keep the shoelaces really simple. I'm just going to paint them straight black. So in that transition arm, she's holding an ID badge up to the screen. The water slide decals are super easy to use. Basically, you just dunk them in the water until that paper starts to curl, and then I just slide this onto the ID badge, sort of squeegee out any water that might be underneath the decal so that it actually sticks. And then I'm just gonna do the same thing on the back. Once the front is all nice and set and I feel comfortable that it's dry, I'm just gonna flip it over. There's another decal that goes on the back, same process as before. I got to cut off all those little edges. So I just use a really sharp X-Acto because you really want that to be sharp. You don't want it to be tugging at the decal. Blow dry it all to make sure it's really nice and set. And now I have my little decal. So now I get to start on the base. Kind of like before, I've got a light base coat and a dark base coat, and I'm just going in and following the highlights and shadows that I set in before. There are these little lights all over the base, so I've taped those off so that I don't get any of that gray paint on those lights. I want them to be really nice and bright, and that's hard to do if I've already got a darker color paint on there. I've added some dry brushes and washes to the base, and now I'm going to go in with a little bit of silver and just hit some of these spots where in the sculpt you can see where the paint's chipped away just with age. There's these numbers that are on the side, and it was sculpted sort of raised, which is nice because now I can just go in with a light dry brush of a white and just add layers to that, and it really makes it feel like it's layers of paint that have been on there and they're dripped. And the rust usually is like a couple colors. I didn't want it to be super rusty, so I just used a little bit of burnt sienna and a thin wash. I just have some brushes that are already messed up and just sort of speckled it around, and that helps keep it organic. I want to go in with some kind of a raw umber black mix, give some areas a little bit of pop, make it feel like there's little grime streaks. In some spots, I think I'm going to put in some little oil drips, make it feel like there's just oil and goo coming out of some of these places. Now I'm going to go in and airbrush those lights so that they feel like they're glowing. I didn't want any of that dirt and grime getting on those lights. I want those to be really nice and bright. So I've painted them white, and now I'm going to go in with a little bit of a yellow and sort of start on the outsides of the lights because you want the center of the light to feel hot. And then the final step for the base is just going through and popping some of those shadows that I had blocked out from the very beginning. Always easier to do when you have the whole piece together. So I've just got a translucent black that I'm using, basically just resetting all those shadows that had been painted in before and pushing them so that the figure with all her lights and shadows match the base, and it makes the whole piece feel more cohesive. So now I'm going back to the portrait, but to start with, I'm going to start with the hair because that's going to help frame her face. So I have my base highlight and base shadow color that I'm gonna airbrush on here. We decided to go with a little bit more of a magenta color for her hair versus, I know sometimes Mystique is shown with a bit more of a standard red color, but I think the magenta works really nice with her. It works well with the blue skin tone. So from here, I'm going to add a highlight dry brush to the hair. And again, putting a little bit of those in the shadow area too, to just sort of give it a little bit more life and a little bit more depth. This is going to help bring out more of those individual strands and make the whole thing feel less airbrushed. Then as I'm painting the face, I like to start with the eyeshadow. Again, that's just gonna help me frame out the eyes. So I've got a translucent black that I'm using for the eyeshadow. And I've just got a little bit that goes under the eye too. Again, it helps frame the eye. From there, since she's got these bright yellow eyes, which is a little bit different, I'm just gonna base out that eye color. So it's gonna help me see what all the colors are gonna look like as I go in and paint the other parts of her portrait. So this is just sort of a stand-in for right now. Next, I'm gonna paint the lips, and I'll just start by shaping the lips with just sort of a base red color. Here, I just wanna make sure that I like how the shape is. From there, I'm gonna add a few highlights and shadows to her lips to just give them a little bit more depth, make them feel a little less flat. And then I'm gonna go in with some lighter colors and start giving it a little bit more texture. I've got this sort of like a lighter magenta color that I'm gonna just put in a few highlight areas. Nothing that competes with the hair too much. And then I've got a sort of more purpley color that I'm gonna go in with just sort of a wash in the crease of the lips and around the edges as well. And then just a final highlight color here to help some areas of the lips pop. And I try to do all these sort of as washes so it all stays really pretty soft. So now that I've got the lips done, I'm gonna go in and do the eyebrows. Now the eyebrows, I like to use basically the same colors that I used in the hair, but the darker colors. So I'll just go in painting the individual hairs with one of the shadow colors that I've used for the hair. And then I'm gonna go in with a lighter color and kind of pop a few little hairs in there. And that's really gonna help give those eyebrows a little bit more dimension. Now that I have the eyebrows done, I'm gonna go in and finish up the eyes. The first step is I'm just gonna go in with a brush in a slightly lighter yellow to set where her iris is gonna be, but I am gonna use an airbrush, which is why I've masked this off with Silly Putty. It's a great tool to use because it's not gonna damage anything that's underneath. I'm just gonna airbrush it because she's got these sort of glowy yellow eyes, so I want a soft edge on that, not a hard edge. Now I'm gonna add a little bit of a white airbrush to the center of her iris so that it feels like it's kind of got a little bit of a glow to it and it's sort of functioning as her pupil. And then to wrap the whole thing up, I'm gonna add a mustard color, darker yellow around the edges, and that's gonna help shape those eyes a little bit because with such a bright color like yellow, it's really gonna just flatten out her eyes if I don't do this. And there we go, her portrait's done. And there it is, the Mystique Premium Format figure, all wrapped up. Thanks for watching.